before he ever wanted to hear God, he noticed something else. He saw it in his friend. Whenever his friend spoke, something shifted in the room. People would stop fidgeting, stop adjusting their chairs. They'd put their phones down, their screens going dark. They'd stop rehearsing what they were going to say next and just listen. It wasn't because his friend's words were loud or dramatic. It was because they arrived with a certain weight, a kind of gravity that pulled you in. His friend would often pause before speaking. A brief, thoughtful silence, as if you were listening to a conversation the rest of the room couldn't hear. And in that quiet space between sentences, a question started to form inside him. A question that grew louder with each encounter. What does it feel like to be that certain? To speak with that kind of conviction? And as he watched, something quiet stirred deep inside him. It wasn't jealousy, not in the way we usually think of it. It wasn't the kind of envy that resents or wishes someone else had less. It was pure admiration. He didn't want the attention his friend received. He didn't crave the platform or the spotlight. What he wanted was the clarity. Tesours. He wanted to hear God the way his friends seemed to. To listen to that inner voice without guessing, without wondering if it was just his own thoughts echoing back at him. He longed to speak without that nagging doubt, that internal debate over whether the words were truly inspired or just his. And so, he made a decision. If this connection, this clarity, was a gift, he would do everything in his power to make himself ready to receive it. He would prepare his heart and his mind for it. So, he began to pray, and I don't mean casually. Not the kind of prayers you offer up when it's convenient or when you remember. He dedicated hours to it. Long, focused, careful prayers. He chose his words with intention, laying his heart bare. He immersed himself in the scriptures, reading until the pages grew soft and worn beneath his fingers. He didn't just read. He separated passages, cross-referenced them, highlighted patterns, searching for a deeper meaning, a hidden key. And then he separated himself. He stepped away from the constant noise of the world. He disconnected from the endless chatter, the distractions of people, the comfortable rhythm of his daily routine. He believed that if he could just get far enough away, he might be able to hear more clearly. He climbed mountains, literally, thinking that the physical distance might help heaven feel just a little bit closer. It was Olin days turned into weeks. He waited. He listened. But there were no visions, no booming voice from the clouds. There was no sudden warmth that confirmed a divine presence, no unmistakable sign that he could point to and say, that was it. The mountains remained just mountains. The sky remained stubbornly quiet. At night, he would lie awake, straining his ears, listening for something more than the sound of the wind rustling through the trees. But the silence didn't break. In fact, it did the opposite. It settled. It grew deeper, heavier, filling every space around him and inside him. And slowly, a thought he had been pushing away began to form. A thought he didn't want to admit even to himself. Maybe he wasn't meant to hear anything at all. Maybe all this effort was for nothing. He came down from the mountains with the same ears he went up with. There had been no spiritual breakthrough, no grand revelation, no single moment he could hold on to as proof. All he had were more questions than when he started. He had to face a difficult truth, and he tried to tell it to himself, as gently as he could. Maybe the Lord had simply passed him by. Maybe this gift, this direct line of communication, wasn't meant for everyone. Maybe his deep desire for it wasn't the same thing as being called to it. He didn't feel angry or betrayed. He just felt let down. A quiet, hollow disappointment settled over him. The journey he had embarked on with so much hope had ended in what felt like a definitive and profound silence. Years passed. Life went on, and with the distance of time, he began to remember that season on the mountain differently. He no longer saw it as a rejection. It didn't feel like a failure anymore. Instead, he saw it as the first time he learned something truly difficult, something essential about faith. He learned that silence is not empty. It's just unscripted. He realized that some people hear God in clear, spoken words. Others feel God in a deep, unshakable conviction. For some, it's a sense of restraint, a nudge to hold back. And for many, faith is found in the waiting itself. He came to understand that some people never hear what they expected to hear, but in the process, they still learn how to listen. Maybe God didn't speak to him on that mountain because In that moment, nothing needed to be said. Or maybe, just maybe, the silence itself was the language. It wasn't a denial of his request. It wasn't a test he had to pass. It was simply a reminder that a divine presence does not always announce itself with trumpets and thunder. Sometimes, it's just there, quietly abiding. He learned that sometimes, the most honest and profound faith is the one that descends the mountain without any clear answers. The one that walks back into the noise and confusion of the world with empty hands, yet continues to walk, continues to trust, and continues to listen, not for a voice, but for a presence. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more reflections like this. We'll see you in the next one.